thoughts on that space down there? What do you see when you see it?
When I see that space, I see a tremendous opportunity. Whether it's going to be an adaptive reuse of that site, or even the potential for reimagining what could be there, there's a huge potential for downtown Wausau.
Can you explain how you were approached from the WEDC and kind of what the timeline's been since then?
We were informed it was a pretty tight timeline. I was part of the National Main Street Conference. I spoke in Kansas City a couple of weeks ago on real estate redevelopment. Was approached and said, hey, we're going to have a bid coming out. We bid along with a couple other firms, and we were selected by that bid through the WEDC.
You know how much the grant was for that paid for the WEDC?
I believe $20,000.
So what are the next steps now?
So the next steps are we're going to go through and do demographic information collection. We're going to do some primary research on the preferences of the local market. And then we're also going to be doing some retail leakage report, trying to figure out kind of what the retail market will bear, as well as some construction cost estimates and rental costs, those sorts of things. That's what our firm does. On the architectural side, they're going to look at an urban design plan. They're going to look at some kind of conceptual plans for the space as well.
And after hearing everyone's comments tonight too, what's your reaction to that?
I think we're extremely excited. We weren't really sure what to expect when we walked in, and I think we found an audience here and a council that was very open to hearing new ideas. And honestly, when you work with the communities, you just don't know what you're going to hear back. And we found this council, I think, to be incredibly receptive to something new and different, which is sometimes difficult for communities to understand.
So coming from your viewpoint, do you see, with all the other development going on in town, do you see a community open and ready for this kind of development, kind of a more modern look to their downtown?
I think so. I don't want to say necessarily modern look. Mm-hmm. I think that they're open for business. And I think that's something that's important. It's not necessarily looking to steamroll. I think that's something that, as we've talked to the administration here, is this is going to have to be something that's market-based, that there might be a need for public-private partnership, but it's certainly not a case where the city's going to do everything, because I don't think they can, and nor should they. So I think this is more about being ready for development and being open for business.
So I want to understand in the future, if this master plan is developed, how that looks like going forward. Because right now you have one company owning in a trust,
right?
Not a really. So
yeah, three entities in all of this,
right?
Well, that's
owning one big structure, and then it's going to get divided up into these little subunits. Is it going to be a matter of bringing in outside investors? I just don't see.
We're not sure how it's going to work yet, to be honest. And that's part of what we're being contracted to come in and kind of figure that puzzle.
Maybe a better way to ask is, how has it worked in other places where you've done these types of projects?
This is a little different situation because of the number of players involved, but there's a lot of. We've seen this in other areas where there's public ownership, there's private, developers at the table. I think it's trying to find a solution where private entities are still going to be able to do what they want to do, which is, do development, make money. The public sector is going to get a return on their investment as a public entity and still get tax dollars. So we just got to find a solution that's going to work for everybody.
What are the three entities again?
I couldn't name them. The city is one of the entities. The current mall owners own the mall and one of the anchors, and then the Yonkers building is owned by a trust.
Okay, so the trust, the mall owners, and then the city.
Correct. Those are the three entities, and the city owns the land and the old J.C. Penney's building.
What maybe sticks out to you as different about this area?
I would say you have a pretty compact development design, which is kind of a wonky plannery term. You've got a core downtown. You've got a good downtown. It's solid. It's not a case where you've got a struggling downtown. You got half the stores are empty, and then you've got a mall that's struggling at the end. You've got a strong downtown in Wausau, and to have that mall here, I think is still an asset. But what can we do now to make it even better? Because I think the things that the mall are going through are not Wausau specific. These are national retail trends. These are things that are going on all over the country. Every community's got a mall or thinking about these exact same things. This city is just being way more proactive about it than we see other communities.
And if everything continues to move along as it's moving now, do you just have like a rough estimation when people might see this revitalized downtown?
Well, first of all, the downtown itself is already revitalized. It's a fantastic place. The mall itself, this could be a process. Our part of this process should be done in a couple of months. We're going to work with the city and with WEDC about developing pro formas and trying to make the numbers work for our development. From there, it's trying to piece together how we're going to make this all happen. This could be a situation where the development doesn't happen for 12 months, could be 48 months. We don't know. Ultimately, it's going to dictate a lot in terms of what the market will bear and the cooperativeness and the cooperation of all the folks that are involved.
So the pictures that we were seeing today, so it's a lot of the multi-use and the housing. The multi-use, is it going to use the original structure of the mall, or will that?
I don't think that's our intent. I think the intent, well, because
Okay.
we talked about two different options. We talked about
Yeah.
adaptive reuse, which was using the same infrastructure that's there. So the same building, just retrofitting, demoing, doing a couple of minor things. And then we talked about the two roads. So the first road is adaptive reuse. The second road is something new. And so that something new would be clearing of the site and then looking at what you can do within that framework of the site. Because there's already road, water, and sewer already there. So we got to figure out how we can try
Yeah,
to.
and I think the reason why that question is relevant is because in the case of Stephen's point, about half their mall was torn down, the other half turned into mid-state technical college, and it's interesting because it's not a tweak. I mean, it looks completely different. Like you would never dream that it was a mall.
Well,
However, but it does use the existing structure, right?
And that might be an option. We got to get down the road a little bit and figure out, how much of that can be reused, what kind of changes would need to be made to it. I mean, we're a million questions, down the road.
It's just like it's some of those photos that I saw, the renderings that I saw. I'm like, well, I could see them like retrofitting even a portion of
It
the
could
building.
be. It could be. We haven't got there yet.
So at this point, everything is still like a possibility. We don't have anything for sure.
Correct. Yeah, this is going to be dictated by the market, by cooperation of all the entities involved, and then ultimately what the community wants. Because at the end of the day, we want the community to be able to put forth a vision of what they want in that space that benefits everybody, because otherwise they'll get whatever the private sector wants to dictate to the community. And I don't think that's necessarily a win-win for everybody. So if the community can put forth a vision that makes sense from a market standpoint and fits everybody's motivations and what they're trying to get done, then everybody wins in that scenario.
So do you think the current market, there's a lot of housing going in, obviously, and some recently completed. Do you think that will decrease the amount of housing that goes into this area?
Oh, certainly. Well, I certainly think that the more housing you introduce, the reduces the demand. But it depends on how much and what type of housing is available. So part of that is a product question. So, what housing is available? Is it all single-family detached? We know that folks who are in their early 20s aren't looking for the same thing today as they were 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, where they're looking for a house because they're going to get married and have kids. Current generations don't do that anymore. So we got to look for a different housing product type.
Anything else you'd like to add or any questions?
I appreciate all the interest everybody has, and if you have any additional questions, please feel free to.
Do you have a